One Question is designed to give subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to One Question, where we highlight executive leaders in college athletics. I'm here at the 2018 Collegiate Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association's National Conference, and I'm joined by Coach Andrea Hudy. She is currently the Assistant Athletic Director for Sports Performance at University of Kansas. Greetings, Andrea. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Coach, your accolades are numerous. You've been a Coach of the Year. You've won national championships at UCONN with men's and women's basketball, and of course soccer. Now you're at Kansas. You've been there for a while. You've won national championship with basketball there. You're the primary strength and conditioning / athletic performance coach for men's basketball at Kansas. I recently had a conversation with Patty Phillips. She's the CEO at Women Leaders in College Athletics, and she said one of the things that has to happen in college athletics on the administrative side and of course throughout the whole industry is dispelling the notion of unconscious bias about women in leadership positions. And of course she was talking about generating revenue and sports administration over revenues generating sports on campuses, but there's also a part of that ties to women leading men's sports in terms of athletics. Can you give us some of your philosophy on leadership and why it works, where you've been and where you are, and why it will work in the future no matter who's in the roles?
Yeah, I think we're not going to change how we look, right?
Right.
So there's a very conscious decision when you walk up to somebody and you see that they're a female or a male, right?
Right.
And I think that you can't change that. But I think you can change the opinions of what people can do in terms of leadership. And I don't think it's going to change unless women start to be paid equally to men. Women make 70 cents on the dollar, I think, at this point, with some current research that I've seen. And that's a huge. And until women get put on the same pay scale, we're never going to be equal, ever. Because that's a huge unconscious bias, right? Is that person doesn't
right.
make as much as me. Or, we're in the same position and we do the same job and that guy makes more than I do. That's hard to, those are what leaders need to change. That's what needs to be a uniform change, almost maybe a federal government
Right.
change. I don't know. We don't need any more regulations, but shoot.
But something, right, in terms of looking at that discrepancy. And you're kind of, in terms of your role and the position you play, you're a living, breathing example of dispelling that myth of unconscious bias. Women can lead, right? Leadership is leadership. When you can do it, you can do it. And if you can do it well, people should recognize it. And I'd imagine your leadership style when you have athletes with you is probably different than when the same athletes are with Coach Self there at Kansas.
Yeah, I would tell you one, both of us empower people. He has a lot more scope of empowerment than I do, but the one thing that we want to do is teach people, and teaching the athletes what's important and educating them. I always say, what is the weight room, right? You don't just lift in the weight room. There's a lot of other and I say that the last thing we worry about is how much they lift. So there's a lot of other things that are going on in there that people don't realize. That's where every student athlete filters through our weight room. How many other people in the athletic department or in any athletic department say that every athlete filters through that? So there's the ability to create a culture of behavior and teaching and empowering. I think it's pretty cool because ultimately the difference between a coach and a teacher is wins and losses, and I don't get any wins and losses, so we have to get results.
Right, exactly. And speaking of creating culture, can you give us a little bit on how you do that in terms of your role as the Assistant Athletic Director for Sports Performance?
Yeah, I think culture, Jim Thompson says, is what we do here. And our culture is we take athletic performance seriously. It's not a place where we're going to fight over the music. It's not going to be played loud. It's a teaching environment. I'm going to give you feedback on reps, whether they're good or bad. We're going to measure everything that we possibly can to make you the best athlete. Yeah, and I have my career, right? And I've been successful with it. So when an 18-year-old comes in and tells me that he might think he might know better than I do about the weight room, I tell him right there's the door. You don't need to be here, And then he's like, "Wait, I have a choice," Not really, but I don't need him there if he's going to disrupt what we do. So it's about movement. And again, we're a results-based organization. It's not a time-based one. So I just need to get the results that we need to get to make the athlete better and better at his or her sport and position, and go from there.
Right. And you've worked with some pretty dynamic leaders in terms of coaches and athletic directors. Can you give us some insight on some of the things you've picked up from their role, either as an athletic director in administration, how they lead, coach in terms of a sport and how they lead, and then how you lead? Are there some commonalities?
Yeah, I think every situation is different because you're working with different individuals. There's people that, and I think great teachers or coaches pick that out, whether somebody's fear-based motivated, whether somebody needs a carrot, whether somebody needs to be ignored to get the attention. I think it's very dynamic, and I think leadership is a dynamic thing. I always look at the end goal and work backwards from that. Coach Southall, he says, we have a culture. It's just we're here to get better. And if you're not going to help us get better, and if you're not serious about getting better, maybe this isn't the place for you. Right. And that's how I feel about the weight room.
Do you work with the other strength and conditioning and athletic performance staff and come up with a philosophy for the school? Is it separate? Or is
no,
it
because each weight room has different equipment, and a lot of coaches have different practices or principles, and all the sports are different, and all the athletes are different, and that's what's the beauty of, I think, where in sports performance, I think at every university, to deal with the multiple cultures of multiple sports, to come into one room and follow the same set of rules and try to get the same outcome. I think it's a pretty special place that people don't realize.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know, you just finished speaking here, when people call you or ask questions, what do you think some of the young coaches either should be learning or missing today in terms of
I think it's how to communicate. I think a lot of people, and again, I've only learned through failure. That's how I do it. Right?
Fail up, right?
Fail up.
Right.
But I think how to sell your strength and conditioning program or your sports performance program, how to sell what you do, because those people aren't interested in what you do. They just want wins and losses.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they don't want losses. They just want wins. They don't want losses. So to be able to sell your program, sell it to the recruits, sell it to the people around you, take pride in what you do, show results, communicate effectively with coaches, and understand it's special because everybody's different. Everybody comes from different backgrounds. Everybody has their own story. Everybody hears things differently. I always tell the staff, no matter how much we over communicate, there will always be a communication error, and we can't take that personally. It's just, let's just try to do it better or differently next time, because I might say one thing to you and it comes off differently to somebody else. It's hard. It's really hard.
That's the truth across all leadership, really, and just communication with humans. It is anything. That communication part is so important. Well, I think by the nature of the line of questions that we're standing up to, you're very well respected. You've earned a lot of accolades, and I'm sure you'll continue to earn accolades and develop young people to go on to brighter futures after they finish either coaching or playing in athletics. And I really appreciate you joining me here on the One Question podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That was Coach Andrea Hudy, and she is the Assistant Athletic Director for Sports Performance at the University of Kansas. And this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of One Question is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.